Greetings, fellow sim racers. Very recently, I bought myself one of these PSVR 2 and had to have a go at Gran Turismo 7. And I tell you what, it's an absolute game-changing altered reality that is almost impossible to describe. The GT7 just ceases to be a game with graphics on the screen to being real, and it's as real as you could possibly get for a game, I reckon. There is one slight problem though, unfortunately. It has ruined GT7 for me, and I'm going to explain why. It's not just that you have massive disadvantages with VR, but the old problem is I'm way slower in VR, and I used to do real world karting, so I was used to judging my braking points by eye rather than by braking point, just by sensing the distance to the corner, doing that stereoscopic 3D spatial awareness thing that humans have. And when you switch to 2D racing on the screen, you start going by braking points and the position of the braking point on the screen, and it makes you much more accurate. I thought I'd always be faster in real life. When I first started sim racing, I thought if this was stereoscopic, I'll be faster in sim racing than if I was working to a screen. But then I've adjusted, and you start getting pinpoint accuracy on a screen. And I've seen loads of these social media content creators, celebrities in sim racing, Super GT, Kira Tijni, Rory Alexander, Jimmy Broadbent, others like Doubtinator, RTR Tempo. All these guys who are really fast, have bought the VR headsets, they do daily races, and they never use their VR headset when it gets competitive. And neither will I, because you are at a massive disadvantage, and I'm going to explain exactly why. And it's multiple levels, and it's not just because you don't get the leaderboard and you can't see the gap to the guy in front or the guy behind, or the gap to the leader, or even when people are taking pit stops or what tyres they're getting, the stuff that's just completely anti-competitive, puts you at a disadvantage in races. But it's also about precision, being able to see all the track, see where your tyres are going, sighting braking points, and even things like when to shift, because you find, as everyone will know, when you're playing GT7, the shift indicator isn't always the place where you want to shift. Sometimes you have to over rev a little bit, sometimes you have to short shift on the cars. But forget the fact you don't even get your shift indicator in VR. You also, you can't, because you're going by a rev counter, you can't even see exactly where you're short shifting by, because you can do it by the point on the shift indicator, where it starts to light up and blah, blah, blah. There's loads of little tricks people use for that consistency. And sometimes, I've noticed on modded cars, you can have a rev counter which say goes to 10,000 RPM on a car. You stick some load of mods on, you increase the rev range, and suddenly your peak power is 11,000, 12,000 RPM, well outside that rev counter. But you can only see the needle go up to 10. After that, you're completely guessing, and I mean completely guessing. Whereas anyone who's on flat screen can see the new rev range because it updates. So there's little things like that which are completely anti-competitive, but they're not the main problem. And I'm going to show you what the main problem is by me doing laps in VR and then not VR, after a little sort of realization discovery thing when I was playing some guys that I've raced before in public lobbies, blah blah blah. I knew I'd be slower. I'm on average about 0.8% slower per lap in VR than I am on flat screen. And I've had this VR headset now for a couple of weeks. I should be up to speed by now, but I'm not. This is about as good as my speed gets, and this is what you're going to see. So to start off with, here's a sort of little snippet of that race I was having, where it started to dawn on me exactly why I'm so much slower in VR. But when you're doing it to guesswork, you have to leave a bit more in reserve, so you will never be as quick as you will be if you basically make the front, the whole front of your car invisible, transparent, and any driver in the world would be quicker if in a tin top they could see where their front wheels are going, because you don't need to look where your rear wheels are going because they follow the fronts, but where their front wheels are going, any driver in the world would be faster in a tin top if they knew exactly where their wheels are going. See, I didn't use that exit curve at all there, which means I didn't maximise the speed around that corner. On 2D and bumper cam, which I usually use, I would have used that, and I'd use it every time, every lap, and I'd know exactly where it is. But this, because I'm inside the car, I have to guess. I mean, it'll come with experience using the car. If you use the same car again and again and again and again, like a professional racing driver would, but you're not a professional racing driver, and you're playing different cars all the time in Gran Turismo because you can, you know. And part of the fun of the game is using different cars. 226.2, that is so fucking slow. That is so fucking slow. Even though I thought I was using all of the track, which I wasn't, and I was trying to use all the track, which I wasn't. That's about a second and a half slower than I would be normally. Massively wide, unbelievably wide there, unbelievable, whole different fucking postcode wide through there. Assuming I'm close enough to get in this slipstream, I don't know, because I don't know the gap. Given the Subaru's not coming past me, and I guess I am in the slipstream. Where's he gone? I'm just looking in the mirrors. Where's he gone? That's Panay. Yep, motherfucker. You're not too sure though. You're never too sure. No, you can't. You just can't compete in VR. You just can't. As soon as you try and push the limits, you're stepping onto too much curb, too much grass. You know, you can't compete. And that's such a crying shame. That is such a crying shame. So what I thought I'd do is what I've seen someone else do, is pick the 911 GTS RS on the sport medium tyres, go around Tsukuba in VR, and then do it again, exactly the same setup in a flat screen. So I've got a manual rev counter, so I think you shift it around 9,000 RPM just before. That's what I'm aiming for. Now the problem you'll have with VR is I have this big dashboard and bonnet and sometimes even an engine in front of me in the track. So most of the time you're sort of guessing where your tyres are. And as I was discovering in that online race, it's so easy just to use a little bit too much and get a track limit penalty or go off, or what you tend to do is you start leaving track in reserve. And if you Gran Turismo, you've got to be so precise that if you leave a little bit of track in reserve, you're going to be slow. So this is an out lap on the VR, like first lap out, and it looks okay. I'm not I can tell I'm not as confident on the throttle or the brakes, but I'm enjoying it. I could do it. It's fun. And then you'll see my lap times come through. This is actually my fastest lap, I think. So I just did 5 laps, and straight away in flat screen, 5 laps. You have to readjust to the flat screen, but whatever. But the thing is, I find is, because I can't see exactly where the front tyres are going, I'm either leaving track in reserve or getting penalties for going over. Track limit penalties, loads more track limit penalties than I'd normally get. And ultimately what that results in is you lose precision, and you need that precision. And you need that precision going right to the edge of track limits and using it all, otherwise you'll just be slow. So this is my fastest lap. It was great fun. It was fantastic, completely immersive, felt like I was really driving the car. But what's the point if you're slow? If you're slow, you can't use it competitively, and straight away that relegates VR to single player experience, because you just can't compete. You will never be able to compete. So that was my fastest lap. Some other lap times coming through with the consistency and stuff. And you're at such a disadvantage by not being able to see exactly where your tyres and wheels are going on the track. So that was on my laps. That was my 5 laps that I afforded myself. And what is interesting is my potential lap time. Now that's a 56.8 as fastest, mostly in the 57s. Potential lap times of 56.3. So way quicker than all of my laps put together. So that's just like mistakes, confidence, not too sure where the car is on the track and so on, becomes way more obvious when you see it in a replay. So I just stuck it in a replay, stuck it in third person view, which I never use, but it's good for seeing exactly where your car is. And you'll see on this that, find my fastest lap. So this was my fastest lap, coming up final corner. Didn't use all that inside curb, could have used more outside curb. This is just a lack of precision you have. Braking, wide in, didn't get close to that inside curb, didn't use all of that outside curb. That was ridden okay, that was ridden okay. This was pretty good. Maybe sometimes you can get away with not riding that curb. Could use more of the outside curb there. Rode over that one not too bad. Didn't use that curb much at all. Didn't use supposed to put a bit of wheel on the grass on the inside there. So there's all these little things of I'm just not quite using all of the track. It's only like in, scaled up or to scale. There's a couple of inches, but that's all it takes, because you'll just hemorrhage lap time. Every single braking point, every apex, every acceleration point. That's a bit better on that final curb there. I think I came out in the final. I could use more track there as well, actually. It's 56.8. No idea if that's a good time or not yet. But I already know it's going to be way slower than if I do it in flat screen, because I can see straight away I'm not using all the track. And I'm not smooth on the throttle either. Brake's not too bad, but lacking confidence. So straight away you go to 2D mode. I use bumper cam. Straight away I have no dashboard, no engine, no bonnet, no nothing in the way. I know my wheels are right on the corner, my front wheels are right in the corner of the screen, so I can take curbs right up to that very corner edge of the screen, or even more over it if I want to. So straight away I've got a huge advantage in what I can see. Now, any driver in the world is going to be faster, as I was discovering in that other lobby. Any driver in the world would be faster in a tin top, real driver, if they didn't have things like a dashboard and the bonnet and stuff in the way, and they could just see where their wheels are, like an open wheel car. They would all be faster. I'm not even using the DRS as much on these laps either, because I can see the DRS light. On the VR, I couldn't really see it the whole time with steering wheels in the way, so I just held the button down all the way through the lap, just had it mashed. Whereas this, I'm using it when I can see it. So anyway, go around doing these laps, again using the exact amount of curb I want to on the inside, exact amount of curb I want on the outside, and you're discovering where you can pick up lap time. So I think this was actually quite a bad lap, but anyway, but you're generally picking up time, discovering where you can use it. Whereas the VR, you kind of find because you're guessing, it's a lot harder to discover where you're losing and gaining time, even with the Delta. So anyway, just picking up bits of lap time here and there, but hitting apexes, hitting inside curbs, hitting outside curbs. I think this is my fastest lap. Using all of the track, in total confidence to do so. That was a bit deep on the brakes, but I picked up the exit. So again, this is by no means a perfect lap, not 5 laps. I could probably get into 55s quite happily in this. Missed that curve though, but again didn't pick up the exit too bad. So yeah, there was way more time to be had in this car on this track with these laps. But anyway, it was a 56.8. My fastest lap, which was fastest lap by several tenths in VR, and this is going to be a 56.2 in 5 laps. Just haven't even got my brain to properly transition from VR to flat screen yet, so I would go probably even half a second quicker than that again with a bit of practice when I zoned in. And look at how much more consistent those lap times are. I'll come back to those in a minute. So if I look at the replay, right up to the white lines, right on the curbs, exactly where I want to be, half a tyre on the curb, using all of that, where I want to be, right up to the white line. Precision that you will never ever get in VR without being in an open wheel car, without being able to use that bumper cam. So this is the thing that makes you slower in VR, is you can't see exactly where your car is on the track. Even the esports drivers, a lot of them, they use third-person view, not even bumper cam or anything like that, because they can see where their car is exactly on the track. It's kind of a cheat. On VR, you can never do that. You're stuck and locked to the cockpit view. And it does not matter how good you are, you will never be as fast. You will never have that precision. You will never have that consistency. And without the consistency and precision, you can't work out where to pick up lap time. So that was a 56.2. And this is why I will never compete now on VR. I'll never even bother trying, even if it's just mucking around in public lobbies. So that's my VR laps. 57.4 to a 56.8. So that's like 6/10, 3/4 of a second nearly, of lap time variation all over the place. Fastest sectors all over the place. Lap times all over the place by my standards. Those lap times are all over the place. Now look compared to the flat screen version, and suddenly 56.4, 56.4, 56.5, 56.3, 56.2. The variation lap times, 1/4 of a second, way more consistent. Not only 6/10 faster on the fastest lap, but every lap was about a second faster, and every lap was much closer to the one before, with no real practice, just going around doing the laps. So it's more consistent on flat screen, as well as faster. Going back to other lobbies, the Atenza GR4, you have to rev this car out way past a shift indicator, which you don't get a shift indicator. Where is that? Don't know. But 30.6, that's fucking slow. That is fucking slow. So anyway, so yeah, the disadvantages in VR are just too unsurmountable, unfortunately, and this is why it's ruined the game for me, because the experience of driving in VR is incredible. I can go to Dubai and do some laps around Yas Marina, and then a minute later I'm doing laps around Brands Hatch. And as far as my brain is concerned, I was in Yas Marina and I've then gone to Brands Hatch. How I got there in a minute, it can't compute, and it knows it's impossible without some sort of personal teleporter. But as far as my brain is concerned, I was racing around Yas Marina in one car, and then I was racing in Brands Hatch in another, and it's totally fooled. And that is awesome, beyond measure, beyond what I ever expected. It's truly incredible. And it's the only way you want to play the game. But unfortunately, it's a racing game, and speed is everything. And if you're not fast, you can forget it. I thought VR is so amazing, I don't care about not being fast because the experience of the drive is just out of this world and nothing else really matters. But we're racers, and when you're doing racing and I'm dropping back from this guy behind, for instance, guessing at where I'm shifting in the Atenza, because I know you have to rev it out but not quite to the red line limit, don't know. So I'm losing ground through things I can do nothing about. Not being able to see where my front wheels are, not being able to see exactly when to shift, don't even know my corner speed. There were hands in the way. How do I know what my corner speed is there? Even if there was a speed indicator on the dash in the car, how would I know what speed I'm doing? You can't. You have to do it by revs, engine note, gear, how the corner is going. But you still don't know. And on the flat screen HUD, I can glimpse and go 84 mile an hour. Perfect. 83 mile an hour. Damn, one more. I've got to put my foot down slightly earlier because I'm doing 1 mile an hour too less. 85 mile an hour. Oh, it's 1 mile an hour too quick. I'll have to delay putting my throttle down on the exit. And you can adjust, and that's where your precision and your consistency comes from. In VR, you don't know. You literally don't know. Cue more realisation complaining from me here.
So you can't race competitively. When everyone else doesn't have the same disadvantage.
So anyway, yeah, the only way I would see this being put on an even playing field is if there's one guy in the lobby in VR, everyone else on the flat screens, controllers or wheels or whatever, are forced to use cockpit view. That's the only way that would have a chance of being evened up. And even then, they're still going to get a better HUD and leaderboard information that the VR players aren't. But at least the VR player can kind of make up for that with stereoscopic vision inside the car. I don't know. So it's a pain. I mean, I miss the proximity indicators. You're looking at mirrors. Some cars. What was I driving the other day? It might have been a rally car in a lobby. It didn't even have any mirrors. So not only could I not, the only hope I had of knowing what was going on behind me was having a radar. I didn't even have any mirrors to use. It's like, come on. It's ridiculous. So yeah, even the proximity indicators make such a difference. Just being in your view all the time. So VR, it's fantastic, but I'll only ever use it single player or in a lobby of C and D drivers or something.
Really difficult.
More track limit penalties. More couldn't see anything down the inside.
And that's just impossible.
Bad loser.
Just impossible. Impossible.